Coming up on Network Africa. A magistrate in South Africa is charged to court for fraudulently acquiring a driving license. The new Tanzanian government ready to amend media policy and regulations. Plus, the spate of kidnapping on the rise in Nigerian territory institutions as families ache for return of their wards. A warm welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Akaite Afia. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll be taking a look at major stories on the continent. We begin today in South Africa, where local media says a magistrate has been charged in court for fraudulently acquiring a driving license. Magistrate Bongiso Mtali was charged along with 5 other suspects and released on a cash bail. He had been issued with a license by 4 officers who were also arrested. According to the Road Traffic Management Corporation spokesperson, Simon Zwane, his arrest is a clear demonstration that no one is above the law, and that the NTACU investigates all allegations without fear or favor. In another development, the Southern African Development Community, or SADC, has postponed its security summit. It had initially been scheduled to help in Mozambique today. The country's foreign minister, Veronica Makamo, says the body did not have a quorum because Botswana and South Africa's presidents would be absent. President Mogwitsi Masisi of Botswana is self-isolating after his staff members contracted COVID-19. He, however, said he would be represented by his vice president. As for the South African president, Cyril Ramaphosa, he is testifying in a corruption inquiry. Foreign Minister Makamo says the SADC has agreed to intervene in security in Cabo Delgado province following a recent series of attacks there by Islamist militants, and heads of state would still come up with lasting solutions to the issue. Let's return to Tanzania, where the new government of President Samia Suluhu is making major changes just a few weeks in. The government today announced it is ready to amend media policy and regulations with inputs from the country's stakeholders. During a media stakeholders meeting, Permanent Secretary for Information Hassan Abbas called on them to bring those ideas so that what the government should do and what the media sector players can do to begin. He says the government is ready to make any amendments to media policy and regulations if stakeholders had recommendations that would develop the industry. President Suluhu, who took over power following President John Magufuli's death on March 17th, has brought notable changes, including allowing some media outlets that had been censored during her predecessor's regime to reopen. And let's take a look in Algeria now, as the leading figure in the country's pro-democracy protest movement, Karim Tabou, has been arrested. Tabou was detained Wednesday evening after being summoned to a police station to respond to a complaint that has been filed against him. He became one of the most recognizable figures in the street demonstrations that forced the resignation of President Abdelaziz Bouteflika 2 years ago. His detention comes weeks ahead of parliamentary elections that he and other opposition figures have said they would boycott. A judge in an Italian court has begun hearing evidence against 4 members of Egypt's security services accused of murdering an Italian student in Cairo back in 2016. Guido Regini disappeared while researching trade unions. His mutilated body was found in a ditch 9 days later. A post-mortem found he'd been tortured. The Egyptian authorities cleared all those implicated in his killing, but Italian prosecutors say they've gathered unequivocal proof that the 4 officers murdered the student. Italy withdrew its ambassador from Cairo for several months and accused the Egyptian authorities of trying to derail criminal investigations. Security in the Sahel remains a worrying issue for the United Nations agencies there, many of whom have been raising concern over what they say is a worsening humanitarian situation because of escalating conflict, rising food insecurity, and COVID-19, with some 29 million people expected to need assistance and protection in 2021. UN Deputy Spokesperson Farhan Haq told a news conference that from 2015 to 2020, violent attacks increased 8-fold in the central Sahel and tripled in the Lake Chad Basin. Across the Sahel, 5.4 million people are internally displaced due to activities of armed groups, as well as intercommunal violence and military operations.
Moving to the Sahel, our colleagues tell us that the humanitarian situation in the region is worsening fast because of escalating conflict, rising food insecurity, and COVID-19. In 2021, almost 29 million people in the Sahel will need assistance and protection, 5 million more than at the start of 2020. According to our humanitarian colleagues, from 2015 to 2020, violent attacks have increased eightfold in the central Sahel and tripled in the Lake Chad Basin. Insecurity is disproportionately impacting children and women. Incidents of gender-based violence are also spiking, with widespread risks of women and girls being abducted, married by force, sexually assaulted, and raped. Across the Sahel, 5.4 million people are internally displaced due to activities of armed groups, as well as intercommunal violence and military operations. Our humanitarian colleagues warn that food insecurity is at record peaks. In the Lake Chad Basin alone, 6.2 million people are projected to face hunger this year, almost 2 million more people than last year. In the central Sahel regions, in the countries of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, 3.4 million people will face a food crisis during the 2021 lean season. In 2021, the humanitarian response plan to help 6 countries in the Sahel will require a total of $3.7 billion.
We switch our attention to Nigeria now, where 4 students of a secondary school in Jos Plateau State have been abducted. The 4 students are of Capro Secondary Mission School in Barkin Ladi local government area of the state. 3 of them, we understand, escaped, while 1 remains in captivity. An eyewitness, Reverend Gideon Paramalam, says the attackers broke the rear fence of the school where they drilled a hole, gaining access into the premises. He also said the intervention of security agencies prevented what could have been another mass abduction, as the assailants took to their heels after realizing there was a reinforcement of security in the area. There have been many heartbreaking stories of kidnappings in Nigeria over the last few weeks. And while the government says it is doing all it can to rescue those kidnapped, it faces many challenges such as ransom and assurances of life. In the melee of insecurity challenges, not much is being said or done to calm anxious parents and guardians.
When Linda Peter last spoke to her daughter, the brief phone call left her relieved that the teenager was alive, but distraught because she could not pay any ransom demanded. Her 18-year-old daughter, Jennifer, was amongst 39 students abducted on March 11 from a forestry college in the northwestern Nigerian state of Kaduna by gunmen. The captors, who called using the teenager's phone, threatened to kill the male captives and force females into marriage, but did not specify the ransom sum sought. The Kaduna governor, Nasir El-Rufai, has repeatedly said his state government will not negotiate with bandits, as the marauding criminal gangs are known, or pay ransoms. After meeting with other parents of abducted students on Wednesday, April 28th, Mrs. Peters says she fears the government is not committed to providing the necessary security.
I thought the security would stand up to help us, because some people, they will kidnap them, they will not reach 3 weeks or 2 days. They will go and bring them out because they have the money they demand, but we don't have anything.
Kidnapping for ransom has become an industry in restive northern states, where more than 700 people have been abducted at education institutions since December. Back in February, President Muhammadu Buhari had told state governments that rewarding such crimes with money and vehicles could boomerang disastrously. But the crime has continued, albeit unabated. On April 20th, armed men stormed Greenfield University in Kaduna State, killing 1 person and kidnapping an unknown number of students. Jesse Jakiri and Lemuel Adamu, both students of the Greenfield University, said they had witnessed the kidnappers at the site.
We saw our school patron struggling, trying to close the door with the kidnappers. That was when they shot him on his leg. Then he left the door. He came in and shot him on his chest.
There was no lights. Then our school generator was on. So I don't know if the fuel of the generator got finished or what, but the generator went off, and the kidnappers, they didn't bring torch. So after the generator went off, they took the students they had already gotten and left.
Friday, Sani's 2 daughters were taken from the forestry college. He has received calls from the kidnappers who, after failing to get their demands met by the government, resorted to calling the parents individually.
With time, the bandit now resorts to asking our number from our children and then turn to individual parents. Come and pay for your daughter, for your son, and collect them. And where do we go from here?
Prayers are up now for the safety of the students still in captivity, for their safe return, and for their parents to be able to hold on until they can welcome them home again.
Consultant neuropsychiatrist Dr. Maimouna Kadiri joins us now. She's here in Lagos. It's great to see you, Dr. Kadiri.
Thank you.
So let's get into the minds of these parents for a minute. Can you describe the emotions that they could be going through and what coping mechanisms they could use or be employing to keep themselves sane during this anxious wait over their children's captivity?
Thank you very much for that question. I would say at this point, being a parent, I'm not in their shoes, but I can envisage what they are going through. Being an expert, talk to people that have been kidnapped before, talk to family members that have had relatives that have been kidnapped before. This is definitely not a good time for these parents. And, the way the human mind and the way the human behavior plays out is that people want to go to where they feel connected, feel empowered, and feel supported. At this point in time, in the mind of any parent that the child is under hostage for days now, even knowing fully well some of these students, they have lost their lives, they are definitely not in the right state of mind. The issues of not sleeping well, issues of not eating well, issues of anger, grief, because even the fact that they are there, they have not yet been relieved, is like a loss to them. So what I would encourage with all the negative emotions, all the issues that they are dealing with now, for these parents, I would say and encourage them, rule number 1, please, they shouldn't blame themselves for what has happened. Because it's very easy for them to start blaming themselves. Maybe if I didn't send my child to that school, I thought of sending him or her to this other place. Don't blame yourself. And they should also please not take the blame of other people on their shoulders, because it's very easy for people to be throwing a lot of words around now, blaming them. Maybe they should have done things differently. That is one thing they also shouldn't, even embrace. They should try as much as possible to eat and sleep. I know somebody may be saying maybe what I'm saying doesn't make sense, but they need that energy. They need to be able to stay alive to welcome their children back so that they can be able to deal with the challenges that they are facing right now. But most importantly, they have to find that quiet space, create that time for themselves to be able to unpack their emotions. It's very difficult, it's very challenging. The fight, the flight, or even the freeze phase of when you are going through a stressful condition could be what is happening to them right now, which is exactly what everybody can feel when you are going through a traumatic experience. They should be able to compose themselves.
And Dr. Kadiri, if I don't mind, if I interject here, I want to ask you one question just before we do let you go. What sort of support do you feel like can be given to these parents and guardians that could help them actually get through this wait as they're waiting for the situation to change?
Right now, for anybody who is close to these parents, as individuals, before we go into government, they shouldn't judge these parents. They should be able to listen to this patient non-judgmentally, not to necessarily prefer solution, because they may not even know what the solutions are, but listen to them to understand their pain, their grief, reach out to them frequently, maybe calls or visit them, and then of course come together as one to be able to know how to deal with these challenges. And when it comes to the issue with government, it's high time we have to do the right thing. Security is a major problem right now, but one thing that the African proverb have said is that if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with others. If security issues...
Dr. Kadiri, I want to thank you so much for joining us today and shedding some light on the situation there. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you too.
Still ahead on Network Africa. The Ethiopian government continues to explore means to improve education in the country. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. And we're still here in Nigeria as the United Nations High Commission for Refugees calls for a ceasefire in northwest and southwest provinces of the Republic of Cameroon. This follows the increasing number of refugees seeking asylum in various local government areas of Taraba State, northeast Nigeria, which they commissioned mentioned that they will be discussing with Governor Darius Ishaku at the Government House, Jalingo. The envoy's visit is a sequel to a report by Channels TV on the state of refugees seeking asylum in 5 local government areas of Taraba last year, and efforts made by the state government to salvage the situation.
At this point, want to confirm to you, Your Excellency, that resources permitting, my organization, the UNHCR, is ready to support and work hand in hand with the government of Taraba in responding to the refugee crisis. In Taraba State, most of the refugees are living side by side with the local Nigerian population. As such, whatever interventions we have tried to provide to support the refugees, we try to do it in such a manner that both communities benefit.
Taraba State, we will do what within our own limits is possible to make sure we make all the IDPs, whether they are Nigerians or foreign other countries, comfortable. We have happened to know the problems of IDPs. We are the safest state in the northeast, and thereby making us haven for receiving the IDPs from Maiduguri, from Yobe, and other states. We are very much grateful for your concern, for the input you have made. I will give those motorcycles to those that really need them, the military, because those are mountain motorcycles that are very good to chase away bandits, to chase away those who are causing more of the problems.
Meanwhile, the National Drug and Law Enforcement Agency has announced the seizure of over 2 million kilograms of assorted drugs worth 80 billion naira in the last 100 days. During a general meeting with the Acting Inspector General of Police, Mr. Usman Alkali Baba, the chairman of the agency, General Buba Marwa, said 3,100 suspects have also been arrested with 350 convictions. General Marwa is seeking effective collaboration with the police and insists that the use of illicit drugs is common to criminals.
The use of drugs is now confirmed as a major precursor to criminal activities in Nigeria. This banditry, terrorism, and all that, they all use drugs first to give them false courage, fearlessness, and capacity, tirelessness to go and ravage communities everywhere. So this is really the time for more collaboration. So far, we know that about 15 million Nigerians use drugs. It's a very, very high number. And working on the mandate given to us by the president to mop up all illicit substances and make Nigeria a drug-safe haven, the NDLEA has remained upstanding by ratcheting up our activities. And in 3 months, in this period of time, we've been able to seize over 2 million kilograms of assorted drugs.
The Ethiopian government is working with global blockchain research and development company IOHK to digitalize record-keeping, resource allocation, and issuance of student and teacher IDs in its education sector. A blockchain is a database that is shared across a network of computers. Once record has been added to the chain, it is very difficult to change. To ensure all the copies of the database are the same, the network makes constant checks.
Blockchains have been used to underpin cyber currencies like Bitcoin and Ether, but many other possible uses are emerging. IOHK's proprietary Cardano blockchain enables teachers, students, and ministry officials to monitor records like class attendance, schedules, and grades for all levels of schooling.
So the first deployment we are envisioning is for all my secondary schools plus all my teachers in the country. So that's a bit more than 5 million. So with this 5 million data, digital ID driven, then blockchain driven, performance analytics driven, real-time data driven. So at least I would, as Minister of Education, I would be able to locate exactly where, for example, very good students are in mathematics or in physics or in chemistry.
The project could ultimately be extended to universities where degrees are also verified digitally using IOHK's Atala Prism solution, which works in tandem with Cardano. Atala Prism also allows employers to verify academic credentials during the recruitment process.
On the education perspective, one of the things that people struggle with is proving that they've actually achieved the degrees and the grades which they say they have. It's quite easy to falsify a university certificate, and you see these kind of issues crop up with people claiming to have done things that they haven't. This new form of identity would enable you to share a single link to an employer. You could click on it and then follow through, blockchain verified, to be able to follow through on the blockchain, the verifications that you've actually achieved what you said you have. So we think this will also be important for employers, and hopefully should be able to drive future growth in the employment market.
The Ethiopian government and IOHK say the 3,500 schools, 5 million students and 750,000 teachers that they have onboarded are only the beginning. Officials have announced plans to avail teachers and students with tablets that can log into a dedicated internet network. They will also set up given that about 80% of Ethiopia's population lives in rural areas.
It is our belief that the work we have done here with PRISM and Cardano for these 5 million students will inevitably grow to be an inspiration and perhaps the system for 107 million Ethiopians, allowing them for the first time to globalize on equal terms with the United States, the European Union, China, and other modern developed economies.
Some tech experts believe the relatively low inputs that blockchains require make them ideal for speeding up the provision and improvement of social and financial services in developing countries.
Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta has sacked the entire board of directors of the country's medical supplies agency that has been hit by a series of scandals. The Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, or KEMSA, latest scandal involved supplying 24,000 doses of an HIV drug that had been phased out. Kenya stopped using nevirapine in 2019 after patients suffered serious side effects. The agency is also part of the reason why more than 200,000 doses of an antiretroviral drug are stuck in the warehouse in the coastal city of Mombasa 4 months after being donated by the U.S. Last year, KEMSA was also implicated in the alleged misuse of millions of dollars meant for buying COVID-19 supplies. It is hoped that this overhaul will help the agency regain public trust. The new board will be in office for 3 years. Well, that is all for the program today. I'm Akaite Afia. Have a great evening and stay safe.